Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm taking more of your questions in another segment of Ask Judy. If you're enjoying these, please do hit like and subscribe. This question is from Kester Banker. Judy, since there could be weeks or even months between the time you tape the different parts of an episode out of sequence and in different settings, and the time when you could finally view the finished product after all the editing and background music, etc., had been added, was there ever times when the finished product surprised you or turned out differently than what you expected it to be? I don't think so, because we had read the script, so I was familiar with the story and knew the basic locations. Sometimes there might be some location I didn't know, so I might go, "Oh, that's kind of a cool location." I didn't work there, but no. And there was a certain style to our show, so I pretty much felt that the style of it was pretty consistent over the years. So no real big surprises. Being used to shooting out a sequence, you kind of knew what you'd read the whole script. So you read the script in sequence, so you knew what the story was. So it wasn't as if there were things that you only saw script for scenes you were in and then could be surprised. So I think I've maybe seen that more with shows where I've been in as a guest and maybe only worked in a scene or two, maybe I read the whole script, but I wasn't around for a lot of it. So it's always interesting to me then to see, oh, look at all this other stuff that was filmed that I wasn't there for. But I think less so I experienced that with the Waltons. And then especially in the earlier seasons when it was new to you, was there an anticipation for you to finally see what the finished product looked like? I think if it was an episode that I had a lot of work in, then yeah, I was always interested to see how it played and did I like my work? Did I think I did a good job? Those were the types of things that I would look at. And sometimes things didn't necessarily, from a performance standpoint, look the way I thought. It's like it felt different to me when I filmed it than maybe what it looked like when I saw it. And sometimes maybe I was like not so happy. It's like, oh, that I thought that was going to play better than then my opinion of it watching it. But my opinion would be different than the average viewer because it was me. And I'm much more nitpicky about different things than somebody who's just looking at it from the outside and isn't me would look at it. This question is from Hannah Young, who said, I'm interested in the schooling aspect of being a child actor. As a homeschooling mom, where rules vary widely from state to state, the 3 hours a day and being able to bank time is very interesting to me. I have a few questions about it. Are child actors rules under homeschooling or private school? They're in connection with the Board of Education for the state of California. So I'm not sure how those rules and hours were originally determined, but each of us would go to our own school, whether it was a public school or a private school, and get our curriculum requirements from our own school, and then bring that to the studio along with whatever books the school was using for those particular subjects. So someplace along the line, I think it was just determined that 3 hours a day would work out. And, sometimes you ended up doing more, and even with the banking of it, because you did what it took to get through your school, through your assignments and stuff like that. And then, were students required to do a certain number of hours outside of the instruction time? Not really, but as I said, you had to get through your requirements and stuff like that. And it really was a very good education because there was so much one-on-one work. So you really were able to, if you needed more time on a subject, you were able to get it and really dig in and make sure you understood something. And if a subject was easy for you, then you might breeze through that. So rather than having I must sit in this class for 50 minutes and I've already done my work. And when I had classes like that in public school, I just do homework for other classes once I was done with my whatever I had to do in the current class. So those types of things I found very useful, that the curriculum was based more on getting through the curriculum than it wasn't time driven as much as curriculum driven. Then Curriculum choices. Is that based on what the local public school is using, or do parents choose the curriculum? Yes, the school. It was through your own school. Now, if someone were being homeschooled already, and I think more and more people in the children in the entertainment industry might be, so from that standpoint, you would bring whatever curriculum you were already engaged in to the studio. Did the rules for school change depending on what state you were filming in, or were the rules set regardless of where you were filming? If you were doing it out of California and it was then going to be a location shoot, then you would still do it based on the requirements of your school in California. So wherever you were in school would be where your curriculum requirements would come from. Finally, if a child is filming a show in California and then goes to film a movie in Nevada, how would the schooling work? It would work the same way. You would take your schooling with you and just do the same assignments on location wherever you were. Now, if children were hired in another state and that's where they lived, then chances are they would still bring their schooling requirements from their local school, and that would happen. So I don't know what happens. Like when we were up in Wyoming filming, there were some children, but I think we only used them for like a day or something. And I think it was the night shooting stuff out in front of the store with the missionary lady. So chances are they didn't do any school that day because we were after school hours. And what state issues the diploma and gives a transcript if the student has done school in various states? That I do not know. My diploma came from my public school in California. So probably similar, whatever your home school, your based school is, would be where that would happen from. But I'm sure it all gets slightly adjusted based on what the initial circumstances are, what school you're in, what kind of school, and all that sort of thing. But the main thing is that they do focus to try to make sure that you do get a good education, which I feel we certainly did. This is from Laura, who said, I always found this episode interesting from the perspective of women and self-perceptions of one's identity. It reminded me of growing up and my own father believing women, girls, should keep their hair longer. Point being that gender identity and experiences are often shaped by generation, culture, and other factors. This raised questions for me. An episode's story or stories are developed initially by the writer, and the vision of the story is brought to life by directors. I am curious to know if you noticed a difference between how men and women directors, how they approached directing, how they told stories. What differences were there, if any, in shows written by women versus men? What about where there were co-written episodes of mixed gender writing teams versus not? We didn't have the opportunity to work with a lot of female directors on the Waltons. I think we worked with maybe 2 or 3. And I don't know that I noticed a particular difference there, other than maybe in some cases, some of the female directors, I, as a woman, found it easier to have certain conversations with about the character. But I don't recall that being all that pertinent or important to the outcome of it. I felt that our directors and writers did a really good job of crossing those sort of gender lines in terms of how they approach the material, because I think the scripts were written very realistically, and that the characters, I never felt like, oh, well, this is a man writing for a woman and they don't understand women. I always felt that the characters, that the problems I might see in a particular scene were not because a male had written or directed it, as much as maybe some sense I had that what my character was doing, I didn't necessarily agree with. I didn't think it was in character for the way Mary Ellen had been developed. So I think that was I was looking at it less as a male-female vision than a personal objection that seemed like, that seems out of character for Mary Ellen. But because we were also a period show and they were writing for men and women of that era, I felt that they did a good job of representing what generationally was likely to be the roles that men and women mostly followed at those points in times, and what some of the viewpoints were growing up. I mean, as a female writing, when I write, I mean, I'm in a world with a lot of men of different types and different viewpoints and stuff like that. I've seen a lot of different types of points of view and perspectives. So I think that, writers, if they have been engaged in life in general, they've seen various different types of personalities. And so it's not as difficult to draw from that. I have, as an actress, sometimes come across other scripts, not with the Waltons, maybe smaller independent things where I felt that the writer didn't necessarily know how to write for women, and that perspective maybe. So that can happen. We didn't have a lot of co-writing teams. We did have the husband-wife team of Rod Peterson and Claire Whitaker, who wrote a number of episodes, including The Grandchild and The Wedding. And so I always felt that they did a really nice job, obviously, of representing both genders. I know when I direct that I, probably have a little bit softer style on set than some men might have. And on some things, I know on one set I was on for a while that I then heard from, because we had a mixed crew, men and women, that they felt that they liked the vibe on the set because they thought it was a little bit softer and not so like male dominated, boys club kind of a vibe. But, that's going to happen regardless. People are, they're not suddenly going to change their personality because of where they are. So hopefully there's more awareness these days of at least being respectful of people that you're working with, which I think is happening more. Thank you for joining me for this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. I will be back with more Behind the Scenes of the Waltons, more of your questions and Ask Judy, and more special guests. Thanks for watching.